Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I like to contrast where we were a year ago with where we are now politically in the UK, with a look at what I thought would happen in 2021, although only very briefly because it went very badly. What really did of major substance, and whether we may be hopeful or nervous ahead of 2022. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, New Year's Eve, time of traditionally reflecting on the year that has gone by and going, we didn't really do a lot this year, and consider how we may do rather better next year, or just get blind drunk in the crossfire. So in terms of how this coming year is likely to go, maybe what we should do is just wait for Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, to say something about it. Because for the past 2 years, Boris Johnson has tweeted about how great the coming year was going to be. And it has been an epic disaster both times. This year, we ended up with plague, famine and death. There's only war that's lagging behind amongst the horsemen. I also made a few predictions for a laugh last year. I'm not doing that again. Almost all completely wrong. A chimp would have done better. I mean, a chimp would have just said, well, I'll probably have a banana or two now and then, and would have got them all right. You know, I'd made 16 predictions for some reason, and I got 5 right. And few of them, if I'm going to be completely honest, were probably not that difficult to predict. So I'm giving up the crystal ball gig. But what I was looking through, I was looking through what I was writing a year ago. And it was interesting that I was concerned that although we were beginning the vaccination rollout, we still weren't taking other measures seriously. Experts were saying, yes, the vaccines are great, but they won't be enough. We'll need these other things as well. The government and much of the mainstream media were behaving as if this was it now. Got the vaccine. It's all sorted, lads. Just get past this winter and we're good. A year on, where are we? They're all saying the same thing again, aren't they? Highest caseload of the entire pandemic. Yes, of course, we don't expect anything like the same rates as deaths, but that is because being vaccinated protects you against the worst effects. But we were supposed to have vaccinated the whole country and much of the world by now. We may have supposed that the government would have caught on as well, that getting proper ventilation into schools and ensuring that people wear face masks would massively reduce the spread of infections. We still haven't. And the thing is, I really don't see how refusing to do this goes against any ideology, because that's the one that really gets me. I haven't heard a single Tory MP, no matter how unhinged, even the ones that say it's a blow against freedom to wear a piece of cloth across their face. I've not heard any of them saying that they are philosophically opposed to air purifiers in schools. And it wouldn't even cost that much. Certainly weighed against the cost of dealing with the consequences. I'll tell you another thing I don't get, and that's why the public aren't incensed. You know, last year I was sort of saying, well, if we looked at like the previous year, 2020, so first of all, the public let the government get away with their murderous insanity because it was hard to get the right information. Well, maybe taking it on the chin is the best thing to do. Yes, let it sweep through. I know every other country says this is insanity, but, you know, well, let's just see here. You know, it was difficult for a lot of people to get the right information. Things hadn't played out. The usual global players were trying to muddy the waters, as indeed they still are. Then Johnson blindsided us all with test and trace. This'll be what sorts it out. Yeah, okay, we shouldn't let it rip through the population. I see that now. Test and trace, though, that's what's going to deal with it. It didn't. We messed it up in the most expensive way possible. Then it was going to be the vaccines. Well, they actually at least help. But they're not making it all go away, and they never were going to. I genuinely thought that we were going to have another winter of woe then, and then people would start to see, you know, the vaccine boost would go away. People would start to see that this isn't the last thing, and that Boris Johnson, what has he then got? That's what I kept saying all through the year. What's Boris Johnson got to come after vaccines? You know, and I thought at that point he'd have nothing else, and that people would demand that the government get serious about the other measures needed. I was wrong. People's capacity for just letting governments dump on them is quite spectacular. Now they're buying the crap about Omicron not being a major concern. Oh, sure, loads of cases, it won't do much harm. Are you having a laugh? The hospitals are filling up at the rate of over 1,000 new people a day. I've already said I'll return to this one at some point next month. The same people who've been wrong throughout will go quiet again, pick on something else to bang on about, flaunt their ignorance over. Then we had Brexit. Proper Brexit this time. At least this has taken a positive path. A lot of people are seeing that Brexit is not delivering what was promised. So there is that. Despite the government and media trying to muddy the waters between the impacts of Brexit and COVID, a lot of people are not buying it. But I think the best bit of Brexit news this year was that the spell was broken. What people think of Brexit is very much in flux. A poll here showing 49% thinking we were wrong to leave. It has actually been higher this year and it will be higher again. A little point out, I've said this before, I'm going to point it out again. People that are thinking there's this poll going around showing that a majority of people want to rejoin. There isn't. Doesn't exist. People say, but it's here. Look, it's here. Look at that poll. Where's the don't knows? They're not there. All that poll shows that there's more people that would want to rejoin the EU than don't. Okay. I'm going to draw correct conclusions from polls. But there is more people thinking it was a mistake than don't. And that's encouraging. And that it won't go up sharply, although next year might be interesting. There's a lot more Brexit to come. But it will keep trending that way over time. 2022 brings with it new bits of Brexit, much of which I expect the government to dilute or reverse again. They can't go ahead with it all as stated. It would be a disaster. And people would notice the disaster. But over time, I expect the proportion who see Brexit going badly to increase. That seems clear. Not as quickly as I would like, but there we are. But whatever people think of Brexit, whatever they think of Brexit right now, it is no longer the call to action that helps the Conservatives. That's encouraging enough. The recent by-election in North Shropshire completely shattered the illusion. An overwhelming Conservative area has voted for the Conservative Party for 2 centuries without fail, without interruption. A Leave voting area. The Liberal Democrats put up a staunch Europhile and anti-Brexit candidate. They didn't stand on that platform, but that's what they were, made no bones about it. The Conservatives made a big song and dance about how the Lib Dems were insulting the people of North Shropshire with this anti-Brexit candidate. The anti-Brexit candidate won. Like I said, not on an anti-Brexit stance, that wasn't part of their campaign, but the point was Brexit didn't come into it. Although there had been other signs that the public mood was switching, this was a lesson to everyone. People aren't going to fall into line with their voting behaviour over Brexit anymore. And why should they? Even if you still support Brexit, we've left the EU, nothing we can do about that now. We've left the single market and customs union, maybe a little we could do about that. And not that that aspect has gone well in many people's estimations anyway. There's nothing left to vote for on the topic of Brexit for a supporter. What is there left? What can you do? Who's standing for anything else on Brexit? The only direction we can move in now is mitigating the damage of Brexit. And again, it doesn't matter what you think is the damage of Brexit. That's all anyone can now do. Both Brexit supporters and Brexit opposers now want the damage of Brexit to be mitigated. And the Conservatives have got no plan for it. Then we have the general standing of the Conservatives. Now, at the start of the year, it's not like the Conservatives riding high at the start of the year. Labour and the Conservatives were pretty much level. Labour had actually spent some time ahead in the polls in late 2020. But the vaccine boost powered Johnson and the Conservatives in the polls. That was the new spell. Starmer had no real answer to that. He could have countered the lies about the role of the European Medicines Agency, but he'd chosen a strategy of not allowing Johnson to fight on his Brexit hill. I've said before, although I don't always see the wisdom of each part of the strategy, and I don't necessarily think it's definitely the best strategy, what I am impressed with is that Starmer is sticking to it. This is the sign of someone who has a long-term strategy and is not going to be diverted from it. That it's a strategy that's been thought out. He rode the storm, and when the Conservatives left an opening, took advantage. It's difficult to see how Johnson will rescue this now. Can't rule anything out, as he's a political aberration, really. But what else is there to ride to his rescue? He used vaccine boost this year. Don't see how he can use it again. When, although the death rate is down from the monstrous in excess of 1,000 a day last year, everything else is worse. His levelling up agenda is failing badly as well, and the least said about Brexit, the better. Literally, the latest government guidance is telling civil servants in Whitehall to avoid even mentioning the word Brexit again. And, you know, it's like they can say, oh, we're not going to put any more measures in place for COVID. We're just going to have to learn to live with it. Well, that's fine. I've been saying that for a long time, but my way of learning to live with it is to wear face masks out when you're amongst other people and from other households, and to have proper ventilation in indoor settings, and any other measures that the experts say are really easy and still allow us to live our lives. Their idea is just to ignore COVID. But here's the thing. Politics can't beat nature. What's happening? I saw yesterday that a load of services, London Transport, had to be called off. Lack of staff. You know, hospitals are having to cut back services. Lack of staff. If you let this thing sweep through the population, people get sick. People have to be off. And that's all there is to it. And people are going to see the effects of that. When people's rubbish doesn't get collected because the local council's short of drivers. If the bad winter weather hits the south of England and there aren't enough gritters, you know, it's... but I'm going to be discussing, you know, Johnson's latest stand-in, because that's also taken a nosedive in his own party again this weekend. I think maybe, I suppose it could be tomorrow, but probably more likely Sunday. But for now, what I'll see is I cannot see how the Conservatives avoid their current slump in the polls while Johnson remains in charge. I can see a bounce back when they get rid of him, but I can't see him climbing out of it. And far from being an opportunity now, the COVID situation this winter is a hugely dangerous time for him politically. 2022 will also see a big series of local elections taking place. There'll be more polling. That's what people will need to see. It's been mentioned before, I'm going to mention it again, that in order for Labour to be seen by the public as the government in waiting, people are sheeple. They need to see others coming to that conclusion. They need to see Labour winning, making gains. All right? Local council elections this year. Now, there's been a lot of by-elections this year, but they don't register. When it's local council elections, it's all on the same day. It's a big national show of it, and you're going to see the results. What we need to see is the Conservatives, massive negative by their name. Labour, massive positive. That's what needs to be seen. For people in other parties, you want to see the same thing for your party as well, of course. And 2022, we'll see that huge national focus on them come May. Although they're supposed to represent purely local issues, when it's taking place on a national scale, it becomes about everything under the sun. It becomes about the national leadership. Of course, you would expect a government that had been in power for 12 years to do badly. That is par for the course. But there is the chance for it to be absolutely crushing. And I will be interested to see what deals are done at the local level to focus votes on anti-Tory candidates. You have seen some of that in local by-elections this year, and it's worked really well. If Boris Johnson is still in charge this May, he will carry the can for these results as well. It might sound ridiculous that Johnson could hang on until then. I don't know. Some MPs may want to give him until May to turn it around. Others will not see the sense of replacing him, only for his successor to have to answer for what will be an instant disaster in the form of local elections going against the party. And we'll see some other elections as well. Stormont are having their elections. Now, this could be the next step of what will be seen as a seismic change in direction for Northern Ireland. The DUP may well become increasingly desperate for the Tories to do something to help their cause, but they'll get nothing other than the consequences of failing to understand reality. And I am going to be talking about that one tomorrow. So when I try to look ahead at 2022, without doing something as stupid as making predictions this time, you can see largely the same issues dominating our public discourse again. The difference this time is that there is some chance that we may edge closer to that critical mass of the public seeing what couldn't be seen before. More fire to pass through before the end, of course. We're not going to say this is now the beginning of the end. The end is still several years away. At best, summer 2023. And the end could still be a very long way away. But we may be able to end 2022 more hopefully. Or it could be much worse as the government continue to legislate away our freedoms. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.